Okay, so the last SCP we covered on our conquest to just learn and understand every single SCP was essentially a water fountain with boobs. That was weird. That was a weird sidetrack, but now we're back on focus. Today we're learning about the most disgusting, hateful, monstrous SCP possible. Literally the polar opposite from a fountain with boobs. Check out the rubber link down below from our awesome SCP stuff and prepare to shit your pants. SCP-610, the flesh that hates.
SCP-2 spasms on the ground, his entire body being overtaken by the sickly tan flesh, almost entirely after 45 seconds.
What?
D2 is terminated by a gunshot from D1, but that did not stop the spread of SCP-610.
Oh my god.
Hello everybody, I'm the Rubber. Today, we bring you SCP Foundation Keter Class Object SCP-610.
It gets a part 1 because it's so awesome.
First, let me introduce my buddy from SCP Animated, Tales from the Foundation.
Oh my god.
Hi everybody, I'm Dr. K. SCP-610, also known as the flesh that hates, appears to be a contagious skin disease.
Dude, it's herpes?
With symptoms including rash, itching, and increased skin sensitivity.
Herpes.
Within 3 hours, the disease will cause blemishes, resembling heavy scar tissue to form in the chest and arm areas.
Ugh.
Within an additional hour, it will spread to the legs and back, and consuming the victim completely within 5 hours. Exposure to higher temperatures will vastly decrease the time for the contagion to spread, and complete infections have been recorded occurring in as little as 5 minutes.
Thanks, buddy. After the completion of the infection, the victim's life functions will cease for approximately 3 minutes. After that, they will restart at 2 to 3 times the activity rate of a normal human. Following this, the scar tissue on the victims will start to move and grow at a rapid rate. Normal human features start to disappear at this point.
Oh my god.
And the path of mutation appears to be largely random. Victims observed in this stage have been recorded as growing 3 or more limbs like arms or legs. The head may become misshapen and elongate or widen out. And parts of the subject may split open from which additional branches of flesh will grow.
See everybody, this is why you wear condoms right here.
But the weird thing is, not all subjects appear to progress to the same stage. There are 2 types of infected victims. One of them will cease moving and place itself in a location and roots itself like a plant. The fleshy growth on the victim will then begin to spread itself across all surrounding objects and consume them. However, this type of infection does not infect living creatures. The other kind of infected victims will immediately seek out aid as natural human impulse, resulting in unintended infections. And those who have lost their human form through the scar tissue phase will actively and aggressively attempt to infect anyone approaching them within an undefined area.
So they're basically zombies, horrifying zombies that don't eat you. This is arguably worse than becoming a zombie.
If the infected has lost the ability of sight, a range of approximately 30 meters is considered safe. Initial reports of 610 came directly from the Russian government, after reports consisted primarily of disappearances of farmers in the region, followed by the local police, regional police, and a government dispatched agent all failed to report within a 72-hour period.
Oh my god.
A small military contingent was dispatched to the area and quickly withdrew, at which point the Foundation was contacted to investigate. The area SCP-610 affects are close to Lake Baikal. And
so I assume, just by the way, if it grows slower in the hot, that means it speeds up growth in the cold. So somewhere like, oh my god, Siberia, it's just gonna flourish in seconds.
Southern Siberia.
Whoa.
Areas of known infection are marked on this map. Due to the vast area of infection 610 covers, containment is impossible. Isolation of the area has proved far more effective, and permission has been granted by the Russian government to establish a perimeter to keep people out of these areas.
Oh my god.
Any living thing coming in physical contact with an organism infected with 610 is considered expendable and is to be immediately terminated and incinerated. Anyone coming within 3 meters of 610 infected life is to immediately withdraw from the area, be isolated from the rest of their team, and subjected to medical examination and observations.
This is a lie, by the way. This is in Russia. Anyone within 50 feet is shot dead on the spot. They're not taking people to the hospital because they're 9 feet away. Absolutely no way. This country invented the gulag, for God's sakes.
Observation of life infected by SCP-610 by staff is impossible. Hence, observations could only be done by using artificial methods, such as remote robots. The data returned from these observations, coupled with the openly aggressive nature of the infected to attempt to spread, SCP-610 has resulted in the Keter classification. However, so long as nothing is allowed to enter or leave the infected areas, it is considered a neutralized threat. But
I feel like that's pretty much how most SCPs come down to, right? When nothing's around, they're not dangerous just because there's nothing to kill, though.
after the cavernous areas beneath the infected settlements were discovered during the exploration, the Foundation sent in research personnel for further investigation.
What is that?
There is a total of 5 field exploration logs for both the remote robot and also the human expeditions. The first exploration was done by a small camera-mounted unit known as
Wally.
Herbie.
Oh.
Herbie was dispatched at a safe distance and directed toward a part of an infected small village, hereafter referred to as Site A. Many of the homes appear to have suffered fire damage, but a fair amount of buildings are still intact. Through the camera feed, it seems that an estimated population of 79 were infected. Immobile infected are included in this number.
Dude, they're literally herpes zombies. That's what the Flesh That Hates is. It's aggressive, zombified herpes.
However, it is difficult to ascertain an exact percentage of mobile versus immobile. After observing the exterior of the village for 2 hours, Herbie was directed to follow an infected known as Alpha as
Whoa.
it entered a home. The home contains multiple visible infected organisms, and Herbie's camera was raised slowly as to not draw attention. Alpha walks around its home multiple times before stopping at another infected, hereafter known as Beta, sitting on a bed. Beta is unable to leave the bed for unknown reasons, but is not completely immobile, as it flails its arms in response to the beatings delivered by Alpha.
What the crap?
Moments later, a piercing sound explodes from the area around Beta, who then proceeds to project a cloud of unknown matter into the air from its chest cavity.
Ugh.
Alpha lingers in the cloud as it floats in the air around them, slowly descending to the ground. The unknown life form on the table aside Beta begins to twitch in an apparent seizure, and Alpha then laps the room twice more, stopping at each infected organism, but now ignoring Beta. Then Alpha seats itself at the table, reaches out for 3 plates and set it on the table. After the plates are positioned, the facial tendrils extending from Alpha wiggle up and start to coil on each plate, before tearing apart and separating.
The hell?
Alpha then leaves the house. Several minutes later, a group of 6 to 7 infected enter the home. These infected all surround the table, and each takes turn consuming the flesh substance left behind by Alpha, pressing it into whatever orifices on their bodies, some under their arms, some into mouths, some into the chest,
Good God.
some behind their backs.
What?
Herbie remains here for several more minutes before retracting its camera and leaving.
Dude, that poor robot has seen some shit, man. He needs therapy.
Herbie is
Damn.
then directed to explore a store. Here he finds more infected individuals.
What?
A Russian soldier who doesn't seem to be moving, but his eyes are in constant movement,
Ugh.
often focusing on Herbie. In a storage area, a large pile of bodies are stacked together. Some pieces of clothing are visible and appear to contain both military garb and everyday clothing. Atop the bodies, an infected sits, appearing to have its lower parts fused to the pile, and with its upper half in a wild state of flailing and seizure. Approximately every 10 seconds, a burst of spores flies out the top of this infected, which linger in the air.
You nasty, nasty dude.
Herbie then leaves the store and passes by the village well, surrounding which are a series of immobile infected, all facing the well. The arms of each of these infected individuals are stretched out, one in contact with the next, forming a perfect chain. Suddenly, an infected young girl grabs and stares at Herbie. Its face balloons in size and explodes outward into a series of fleshy flaps that grip Herbie and draw it inside of her. Herbie's video feed terminates here. 5 hours later, Herbie's video feed resumed. Herbie's camera pointed at the village well, with a slimy film which often oozes across the lens. Herbie does not respond to any remote command, but its video jerks back and forth from target to target, zooming in and out of its own accord. Video feed is cut manually, and all connections to Herbie's unit are ordered erased. The second exploration on SCP-610 happened during construction of the perimeter surrounding SCP-610's containment area.
All I've learned is they should just bomb the crap, like napalm. They need napalm bomb the place.
Several Class D personnel were
Oh, God.
infected. Most of these infected personnel were immediately destroyed with flamethrowers, but a small collection of infected were contained in cold storage units to prolong the progression of infection. In hopes of finding out more information on the origin point of 610, the Foundation sent 3 infected personnel, D1, D2, and D3, into Site C.
D2 is my favorite.
Video system. Site C is in the same infected village with the Site A mentioned earlier, but different spot. The 3 infected personnel were given 9mm pistols,
Damn.
gasoline, emergency flares, and some food. They were also instructed to observe and avoid interaction with the infected villagers. But if they're attacked by the infected villagers, they're allowed to do as much damage to the site as possible while maintaining video feed. As D1, D2, and D3 enter the site.
Wait, D-2, okay. Because I'm calling them R2-D2 in my head, it's very important. See, aren't these things like bulletproof though? These guys are all about to get so disgustingly mangled.
There is a noticeable rise in the temperature, which requires a further shedding of garments. One of them
Shedding of garments. Just say undressing, you fancy pants.
immediately noticed a large number of immobile pylons arrayed around the site, separated by an apparent distance of 5 to 6 meters. Each pylon appears to be 2 to 4 infected persons, fused together in one spot. Heat vents out of these pylons, and current belief is that this is an advanced stage of SCP-610, terraforming its environment to facilitate spread of itself.
My God.
D2 begins to seizure after only a few minutes
Not
inside
D2!
C. The progression to the scar tissue phase of 610 infection is observed in full course. As D2 spasms on the ground, his entire body being overtaken by the sickly tan flesh, almost entirely after 45 seconds. D2 is terminated by a gunshot from D1.
Damn.
But that did not stop the spread of 610. The spread continues even after death of the body, until all movement ceases. As perimeter control is relaying new instructions to D1 and D3, video feed shows a flesh-like growth splitting open beneath D2's body, and a series of ropey tendrils coming from within the gap to pull his corpse inside.
Oh my God.
This opening closes quickly. Total time elapsed 3 seconds.
Jesus.
D1 and D3 quickly proceed to the village center.
Is that guy Naruto running?
3 seconds. D1 and D3 quickly proceed to the village
He is.
center and encounter a sphere
What?
suspended by angled supports, comprised of both infected humans and a few specimens of non-human life forms
Oh my
such as deer
God.
and bears. The entire sphere of flesh pulses at roughly a 5-second interval, and
Gross.
each pulse emits a ring of spore-like material from its equator.
This thing just gets progressively more disgusting every couple minutes. Keep thinking it's as bad as it's gonna get. Next, it's gonna be like a giant pair of pulsating cow balls mixed in there or something.
This material floats to the ground and appears to be absorbed into the converted environment. D3 begins to douse the sphere with the provided gasoline,
What a gangster.
and a lit emergency flare is applied to it, which immediately goes up in flames. The remote feed plays back an explosive and creature roaring noise from an unknown location that seems to come from a location far outside of Site C, but was reported as being heard even at perimeter control by both Sites C and A.
Wait, so is it like Stranger Things? Like it's all one big, like hive mind type? Pfft, I can't get the words out of my brain how I'd like them to right now, but you know what I'm saying?
Within 15 seconds following this sound's dissipation, Site A reported that a series of explosions had occurred within the village. 5 seconds after this report, the spherical mass in the middle of Site C explodes, and both D1 and D3 are thrown by the blast. D3 dies instantly,
Oh,
but D1 manages to stand back up. D1's video equipment falls to the ground and was recording in a skyward direction. The last moments of footage from D1's video unit display a humanoid figure unknown creature, steps upon the recording video equipment and destroys it. Perimeter control remained on high alert for a full 24 hours at all locations without any incident following this event. The destruction caused by the second exploration resulted in a series of unexpected events in Site A. That being said, there's still more to add to the story that indicates the danger and horror of SCP-610.
No
But
way.
we will explore the rest of it in part 2.
It's crazy this thing's actually so horrifying and gets in part 2. It seems to be legitimately a zombie version of Stranger Things, and I'm super interested. I gotta be honest, as horrible as it looks, it doesn't look like they're in a lot of pain when the flesh takes over. They just kind of seize out on the floor for a couple seconds. As long as it's not like a horribly painful, slow dying process, I'm a little okay with it. I think part 2 is gonna be way scarier though, seeing as how it's evolving. It's legitimately evolving like Shin Godzilla, but from a Stranger Things point of view, the creature's about to do horrible atrocities. But this was awesome, and we learned enough for today, I suppose. Either way, check out the rubber link down below for more awesome stuff like this. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.